but I kind of think like the people in positions of power are still old. Like I agree, they probably haven't replenished themselves. Like I don't know who the people are.
What was his name? Recent. I was just listening to one of the plane. Who said that?
A Freemason?
Yeah. No, like somebody will help me out here, but like 2 episodes ago, you had. Thank you. Who said like the Freemasons aren't that big of a deal, and I'm like, he was burying the lead there because there's still, especially in the US, a brazen intelligence network for the royal family.
Yes.
Like that's actually, do they have a huge amount of power? Like no, it's more like you can get off a fucking speeding ticket in some podunk town if you know the goddamn handshake. But the idea that they don't have power is like, that's not the correct frame, right? Because nevertheless, in the 20th century, a bunch of stuff has been said about them, like, oh, the secret rituals were actually there, I don't know, Moloch and all that, that's okay. But the idea that they're not still an intelligence network for the Queen's cousin is not correct.
Yeah. The problem I had with his argument is he's like, it's just an old boys club and they do a lot of charitable works. It's like, yeah, on the bottom level, they do a lot of, because you can hide, like, surprise, good or bad people do some good things to not look like bad people. You know, that to me is like
in terms of the changing of the power pyramid, I think what it looks like in this new canon era, and this is why like I asked the Gnostic question, is let's say conspiracy canon 1.0 was focused on the power pyramid on the material level. You can't have got through the pandemic without some sort of language of the demonic. Like, you can say archons, you can say demons, however you want to talk about it. Your conspiracy canon 2.0, I hate to do that, but apologies. The true power pyramids, you've got a shit map if it doesn't involve the non-physical, if it doesn't involve the imaginary. And it's at that level that it hasn't changed, because as a matter of fact, it kind of has, and we're sort of experiencing this now in the lead up to Europe picking a fight that it absolutely is not going to win, is like, oh, hang on, aren't there supposed to be like bloodline families and shit? Like, you know, not like that. Like,
you hear less about them.
Yeah, sure. You do, but they would be doing a better job of preventing nuclear weapons falling on all those cool little tourist sites in Europe in the next year.
And I think you're right when you talk about, like, if you read the old books about what the elite's plans were, the Grand Chess Board, the Brzezinski stuff, like, Quakey stuff. I mean, the template they lay out, you can tell that the mindset hasn't changed, only the tools available have changed. Exactly. And now they have the tools to do things they used to just talk about. And so the power pyramid has to have changed because it's now like the tech world power pyramid. And I still kind of wonder, like, because some of these ideas aren't theirs, are they just working for, like, the banking level, which is the higher level, I think?
So, but above the banking, it's like, where do these ideas come from? Like, from an animist perspective, ideas are people. And this is what I mean by you can say demons, archons, whatever, but if your map of how power functions in this dimension isn't extra dimensional, like it doesn't include spirits or whatever the fuck you want to call it, then it's just not up to code. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that allows you to sense with some of the changes that are happening. Because, for instance, especially during this pandemic, when I'd be doing spirit work about, like, why are you letting this happen? Like, I was in Australia for it. Wasn't great. Why the fuck are you letting this happen? And they basically said, because if you idiots don't take this to its natural conclusion, you'll do it again. That sounds like it, actually. But there are beings that show up in an apocalypse, like this moment, this transitional moment. In the same way, this is terrain theory for you, the bacteria will show up when flesh needs to be, like, decaying flesh needs to be consumed. So the demons are here, right? Like the archons are here, and even that is almost like a ecosystemic function of what's going on. So when we talk about the power pyramid changing, yeah, and there are models around the world, like a Mayan epochal model of changing eras that will allow for all this to be true, which is like one day the power pyramid from the old era stops working because we're moving into a new era. And you guys are all embodies for that to happen. And that happens once every 600 years, give or take, and we're all here for it, enjoying this delicious Florida beer.
And I do think that also helps, if you think about the spiritual layer of the power pyramid, you're like, this is kind of above my pay grade. I'm not really going to be able to do much about this. So what am I going to do to live in the system rather than like trying to rally the troops to change it?
This is the Gandalf and the Hobbit thing. It's like, what are your, dare I say, obligations, but the better word is invitations, to your local space time? Like, where do you put your attention and your money? What businesses do you support? What do you say and when? Because sometimes it's about not saying it. We've all been to family gatherings where it's like, okay, let me run this through in my head. I can correct everyone at this table and have no family left in the room. Or I can shut my goddamn mouth and just let it wash over me and just let the Biden fucking Harris wash over me or whatever and come back for Thanksgiving. And that's real magic, because you're actually like altering the field and sometimes the decision is like, oh no. And sometimes it's like, oh Jesus, like what would even be the point? Like it would be like singing in Italian to carrots. Like it just doesn't. It's not gonna help.
That's a great line. And that is kind of in the spirit of, like when I started the show, I say all the time, there was really only Coast to Coast and Alex Jones, Red Ice Radio, that kind of felt like it. And Alex Jones, I just thought, I still am not sure exactly how I feel about him, but he fulfilled a role to make conspiracy people look crazy and angry. And you can even go back and watch interviews that he would do on The View. So like when The View wants to appear like they get everyone's voice, they hear every side, he's the guy that you get. And then he goes on and he screams and does his thing. And then the housewives in America are like, well, that worldview doesn't serve me, because he looks like on the brink of mental collapse. So I think it has a psychological effect to keep people away from conspiracy material, because there's an association with schizophrenia and just being overly paranoid. And there's almost like a psychedelic thing, like you don't want to do too many drugs because you won't come back, so you don't do any. But there's also like a don't go down those rabbit holes, because you might be so changed that you're going to be an Alex Jones. So part of the thing, not that I'm the best example all the time for everything, but it was just to be like,
I would like to see you on The View.
I would too. I would like to do and part of the thing was like, well, look, we can talk about these things if they're true without yelling and screaming and falling into the Alex Jones vibe. And so part of it was always trying to be like, no, a more accurate worldview should serve you in a positive way. It shouldn't make you crazier and feel worse about the world. Ignorance is bliss. We use that phrase because, we have friends who work typical 9-to-5 jobs in middle management, and they're genuinely happy because they're kind of dumb. And then there's sometimes where you're like, man, I kind of like that. I wish I could live like that. Some days. That's why the ignorance is bliss phrase exists. But I wanted to try to make a better archetype for the conspiracy person, or at least, have a space where people who need to even be better than me would have something better to listen to than Alex Jones. And now it is like, how much do you take care of yourself? The terrain theory thing. Like, do you grow a little bit of food? Do you get outside of industrialized processed foods? Do you ground? Do you get sun? It has become like just being more embedded in the creation, the natural world, than the industrialized man-created one. And nothing has made me more spiritual than that kind of stuff, and also the fact that it seems like the elite are motivated spiritually. They hate the system that it really is that Gnostic thing of like, well, if this is God's creation, I want to do everything I can to corrupt it, destroy it, make it digital. The whole thing about, I can't remember if this aired or not. I think it did. Wayne McCroy. I just interviewed a guy, Wayne McCroy Jr., who, his whole thing is, what they're doing with the digital layer, with the internet, with metaverse, is they're replacing the spiritual part of the self with the digital part of the self. It's the air, not so physical aspect. And really it motivates everything they do is replacing one of the aspects of the natural life with something artificial, whether it's dead food that never saw sunlight, when regular, real whole food is supposed to be
Exactly.
a vehicle for sunlight to get into the body.
The digital thing, like Catherine was saying about 5 years, the goal is to have you resonate with the cloud rather than divine intelligence.
Exactly. Great way to say it.
Yeah, inevitably. And that comes back to like, I think the overstory for conspiracy is kind of the same in the sense that it is like real oneness. Like honestly, asking Jay Dyer about mysticism is like asking me about vaginas. It's not a good move. It's just not the wheelhouse, right?
Right.
But this is like a 301 level of Gnosticism, which is like, okay, cool. So I actually think that's true. I think at least unconsciously, because I'm not sure if they're all secretly in like a basement of a pizza restaurant trying to get people to like resonate with the cloud rather than the creator. I don't think it's as tawdry as that. But I do actually believe that those thoughts and themes are driving these people to make that the default choice, which means it falls to us to be like, okay, cool, so I'm in a body, and we're a good example of this, because like, okay, I can't like not use the internet, because that's like my job.
One foot in, one foot out.
But it's like, okay, now that I understand that that's actually part of the process, what is mine to do? Where are my boundaries? What do I consent to and what do I not? And that's the new canon. That's like, okay, I am sovereign over my boundaries, over my magical, my imaginal, my spirit boundaries. And that's the step change. That's actually it.
One of the things that helps me make more digital boundaries, and also is like, it's hard for me to get that charge anymore. I've heard it all. But the Jack Cruz stuff about blue light really does get me, because he links it to MK Ultra and DARPA, and that the reason why all of our screens put out blue light and not red light or yellow light or any other kind of even beneficial light is because this is the light that is basically puts mind control in a product. And it hurts your circadian rhythm, it puts you in a zombified state. It has helped me because, like, out of spite, just being like, it's not just about the social media and the notifications and the dopamine, it's actually the physical screen. There's no way to use the screen right because it's emitting blue light and slowly killing you and sucking your life energy out. And that is helpful to me.
Yeah, but it is. Like, the glass half full of that is like you can get to the end of the workday and you necessarily have to use screens and be like, okay, so I can keep screening, or in your case, I can go and play with my kids, like I can go and read a book. And this is the really powerful, transformative, electrifying invitation of this moment, is you can dwell on the fact of like, blue light, blah, 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 blah. Or you can be like, oh yeah, that blue light shit, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna try this and fall asleep. I'm gonna read some classic novels. I'm gonna really enrich myself outside of the world of screens.
Yeah, disengage.
Well, no, re-engage. Like engage with the real.
Exactly. Disengage from the stuff that they're making for us. But that's kind of the funny thing about, if anybody pays attention to the Whitney Webb drama on Twitter, is since Trump's been elected, she's taking a lot of heat as being black-pilled, and people are like, this chick she's just determined to be depressing. And it's like, because those are the people who see hope in the Trump presidency, which we've talked about, is, things like USAID, great. But they're winding down old programs that are no longer needed and then getting credit for it while implementing new, much worse systems of control. And Whitney Webb's just trying to say that. She's like, look, the technocracy is the thing. Her 2-part Epstein book ends with basically the last 2 chapters are, they don't need Epstein anymore because it's not about blackmail and control in that way, and it's all flexing to technocracy. So when you wind down some like 1990s John Perkins program, you should get a pat on the back when you're also implementing Project Stargate, $500 billion smart city infrastructure. And that should get more attention than, say, the Gulf of America. And it really doesn't.
I want to hear a bad word against my neurodivergent journalism queen. I love her so much.
Yeah, Whitney Webb's great, but she is getting it's like there's a thing in the conspiracy. We kind of talked about this with the Q and Eric B and Carol. Like people want to put their hope in this administration, and then if you try to say no, it's the same bad system putting people in place to implement new ways to control us, and like this new control system 2.0. They're like, oh, you're just black-pilled, and it's like, well, you can. And going back to the blue screen thing, it's like, you know, you can have the black-pilled aspect of like everything's coming at me and everything's trying to kill me, and they're yeah, but you can just also put that stuff down, and then you're not affected by it as much. So that's the positive side of the black pill. Is like, yeah, there's a lot of things implemented to hurt you and ruin your life and this and that and destroy your health. But the positive is now you know, and so you can change the way you live.
Yeah, I think I want to say like, put your faith or hope in the hidden kingdom, right? Like, there are parts of what Charles Eisenstein called the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible that are coming through in this moment in the changing administration and so on. And just don't confuse like the fireworks for the reality. Like we belong to like the hidden kingdom, to that more beautiful world.
Yeah.
And that's the bit where it's, oh, you're just black people. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm fucking loyal to the hidden kingdom.
Right.
And that's the way we get through this.
Yeah, Earth Keepers, as
Yeah.
I've said before. So we've gone a little over an hour, and we definitely want to do some questions and get people involved, because what's the point? We could have just done this at my house. So let's get people involved.
No, what he's saying is everyone goes back to Greg's house.
Yeah, my wife would love that. She would love that. But anybody got any questions? Hopefully we greased some mental wheels, got some thoughts.